Hey friends, Uncle Dan here. I have some catching up to do in the garden, and I'm going to share with you how I intend to do that. There are some things that I would like to be growing right now, and they're not growing. I usually have a lot of lettuce, eat a lot of salads. There's nothing better than fresh lettuce right from your garden. It actually is one of the things that saves money. Gardening can be an expensive hobby, but growing lettuce is one of those crops that can actually save you money because you avoid wasting food by not throwing away bagged lettuce. So the seeds that I direct sowed into the ground didn't take off. Kale, I've got kale growing, but about half of the seeds that I direct sowed either didn't sprout or they sprouted and then died. So I need to get some kale going, but it's behind schedule. Anyway, so instead of trying to direct sow things in the garden, which won't catch up, or even using seed trays or modules, I decided to try starting seeds hydroponically. So I have one of these little tabletop Aerogarden hydroponic systems. Now, if you saw my video where I grew heirloom tomatoes hydroponically, you know that hydroponically grown vegetables will grow faster. And so I'm hoping that I can start seeds in my Aerogarden and that they will catch up. Now, you can start seeds in an Aerogarden, no problem, but there are two issues with doing it. The first is this harvest model only has 6 holes. And so that's not a lot of seeds to get started. You can still do it, of course, if you don't need to start that many seeds at once. But the second issue is that when you grow in an Aerogarden and you put things in these little peat growing sponges, you have to put them in these little cages so that they don't fall into the Aerogarden. And the roots, which develop very quickly, will get themselves entangled in these cages. And you don't really want to put the cages in the garden. So you have to either trim the roots or cut the cages. And in any case, it's not that ideal. Now this is some basil, which I actually grew in the Aerogarden. Doesn't look great, but it wasn't doing that well when I pulled it out of there. Anyway, I grew it to full maturity, and a lot of the leaves were touching the lights, and the whole plant was bending over, and the leaves were getting burnt. And I finally decided it was time to grow something else. So I pulled the plant out and put it in a pot. And it's still in the recovery stages, so again, doesn't look terrific, but it's been in there for a couple of weeks and it's still alive. But the roots were so overgrown, I had a hard time pulling it out of the Aerogarden in the first place. But you'll see that I actually had to plant the cage in there. I had to leave the cage on because there was no way I would have gotten that sponge and the roots out without damaging them, basically. It's okay to damage roots to a certain extent, but I would have had to cut them all off. So I just planted the cage in this little pot. When this plant inevitably dies, I'll just dig it out, remove the cage. It won't be a big deal. But you don't want to put that in your garden. Fortunately, there is a solution. This one fits my harvest, and it's the seed starting system. It is specifically for starting seeds for planting in soil later. And when you get it, it basically fits into the Aerogarden. Instead of 6 holes, it has 23, so you can start a lot of seeds. The other thing is you don't need cages. They're open at the bottom. When the plant is ready to pull out and plant, you just pluck it out. The whole sponge will come out. Roots should come out no problem. If you have to trim the roots a little bit, that won't be a big deal. For most plants, there are some plants that don't like having their roots messed with, but for a lot of things, if you need to trim roots up a little bit, you can, no problem. This comes with these sponges. You do get a set of those, and it comes with some liquid plant food. Of course, you can get more liquid sponges and your own growing system, which you can check the link in the description. So I'm going to plant a number of things here, and I have to figure out what to plant. But I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So first of all, I'm going to plant some of this red Russian kale. I've already got some in the garden. I've got a bunch of lettuce here. I've got some butter crunch, Little Caesar. I might go with something else because I don't know if those seeds are still viable. I've got something called Vivian. This is a romaine style lettuce. Basically just picked a bunch of things that I thought looked good. This is something called Four Seasons. Flashy butter gem. It's got that nice sort of Merlot speckle on it. Crisp mint, which is I think another romaine type lettuce. Florellenschluss, which is another red speckled one. Burgundy Delight. Also going to start some dill. I was at the supermarket today and I saw a vegetable that looked really good, but it was $7 for a pound of baby bok choy. And I thought, I don't really want to pay $7 for a pound of baby bok choy. However, I do have purple bok choy, which is very pretty looking in the picture, and didn't do so well in my garden, but I'm going to start some in the Aerogarden, and then when I make space, I'm just going to grow some of this and see if it does well, just growing hydroponically. So I can just grow it. It should grow rather quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to start some of these seeds, and then we'll be back in another video in a few weeks to see how things are doing. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna take all of the sponges, I'm gonna put them in a bowl, and we're just gonna pre-soak them. They will expand a little bit, and I like to pre-soak the sponges. I think it gives the seeds a nice start with some moisture, and with the sponges wet, it means the seed will stick where I put it. Okay, so I have a toothpick. I'm gonna use that to pick up seeds. I have my sponges. I have the Aerogarden insert. This is the front, this is the back, that's where the light goes. So I'm going to put seeds in, and I'm going to try to remember where they are. It might not be a bad idea to label them so you don't forget, but we're going to start with some kale. Tiny little seeds. You're going to find it much easier to pick up if you do something like take a toothpick or a coffee stir stick and pick it up like that. And I just dropped it into the bowl of water. All right, we'll call that one sacrificed. I'm going to do 2 seeds in each. Pop it in there. A little moisture. Pick up a seed. Put it in there. Pick up another seed. Put it in there. Pop it in the Aerogarden. I think I'm going to make this whole back corner kale. Drop it in there. Those are the little bok choy seeds. Found a stir stick. I think this will work a little better. Pop one there. Not there. Let's try this Vivian lettuce. All right, so let me see if I can remember this. Kale, 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 kale. Dill, dill. Butter crunch. Baby bok choy, this ring of 5, and these 5 down here are the Vivian romaine style lettuce. I'm relying on you to help me remember this. Now we're going to pop it into the Aerogarden and add water. Turn on the Aerogarden, and that's it. The instructions tell you to include plant food when you first plant the seeds. You don't really need to do that. Seeds contain their own nutrients. It's enough to get them going. So I personally would just not bother with the plant food until the first couple of true leaves develop. Then I will add some, and we'll let it go, and we'll see how long it takes. And hopefully it doesn't take more than a couple of weeks. All right, so first thing, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside for another time. And we're going to go ahead and fill the Aerogarden. You fill to this little knob here. Next, I'm going to put this guy in place. Push it down. This is the fill hole for putting water in and nutrients later on. And finally, we're just going to plug it in, and we'll turn it on, and it will begin pumping water over the sponges. Now, this kit didn't come with humidity domes, but I do have some. I might use them, I might not. I don't know. These sponges won't dry out, so I'm not terribly worried about that. I don't think they're crucial. Usually, when you have a brand new Aerogarden and you plug it in, the light will come on, and it will stay on for 16 hours, and the program starts when you first plug it in. If you unplug it and plug it back in, that doesn't necessarily reset it. So right now, it is 2:53 in the afternoon, and I don't really want this on all night into the morning. I'm just going to turn this on right now. Tonight when I go to bed, I will turn it off, and then first thing in the morning when I get up, I'll turn the light on, and I will reset it by pressing this button and holding it down until, here, I'll show you how it works. You just hold it down for a few minutes. And when you see that blinking, that means that that is the start of the day for the Aerogarden. Now, that's not what I want. Obviously, I'm going to have to redo it tomorrow. But this light will stay on for 16 hours, give it plenty of light. To start with, I am going to lower this light just so that it's nice and as bright as can be to give those lettuce seeds something to shoot for. Okie dokie pokies. Wish me luck. I hope this works out really well. Okay, I was going to end the video there, but it is not even 72 hours later, and I got to show you something. I have gotten germination on a lot of these seeds, and I noticed some of this germination happening not even 48 hours after planting. So it wasn't even 2 full days. Yesterday morning, I noticed a lot of germination. I've got little seedlings for most of these. Most of these are germinating. That one hasn't started yet, but most of them have. I figured out the reason that they don't give you humidity domes is there's just not enough room for them, but I don't think you need them. I've just placed a few on top of some of the seeds to get them started, and then when they germinate, I move them over to something else. Looks like that one is starting right there. So I can take that one off. What about this one here? That one hasn't started yet, so I'm gonna leave that there. So the little domes don't seem to be necessary. So it's very exciting, very promising, and I suspect I'm going to be able to play catch up like I was hoping with this Aerogarden method of starting seeds. So hopefully I'll get some lettuce in the ground soon, and some kale and whatever else. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. If you like the video, give it a like and a thumbs up. You can check the description down below if you're curious about maybe checking out some Aerogarden stuff. There's a few links down there. And I'll check back in on this project when I've got a little bit more growth. All right, catch you next time.